Hi everyone, my name is James Feeney. Welcome to or back to my channel. Today I'm here to offer a few tips on spicing up your tarot practice, primarily more so personal practice than client practice. So this is for people who read for themselves or enjoy just doing tarot for themselves, by themselves in some way. These are things that I do for myself, so I'm not saying that these are going to work, all of these are going to work for you, but there are a few that I might offer in terms of what I've found to work for myself.
Hey baby squirrel, do you have problems with pesky tuck boxes? Want to be able to preserve the box while still getting to your cards? Use a knife, a butter knife. Gently place the butter knife underneath the tuck box lid and slowly lift out. Now the box is open so you can get to your deck without damaging the box. And for more helpful tarot tips, make sure to check me out at Pappa Squirrel.
So, without further ado, I'll start with them. I have about 9, but they might flow into each other a bit. So the first one I have is to take a break, maybe take a day or two to just not touch tarot. And I think that the urges that you find that you're having during that time where you want to be doing tarot or you would normally be doing tarot, those urges, or if you're feeling inclined towards anything, those are going to be more true to what it is that you might want or be feeling called towards. So if you stop practicing and the thing that you can't get out of your head is that you want to work with a certain deck, or that there's a spread that you want to try, or that you miss something, then you know that that's something that is probably spicing up your practice and is fun and great for you. And when you return, doing things differently. So if that time off was spent in a way where you still feel unsure and you had certain things that you had in place where you knew you would do a daily draw, you knew you would journal, you knew you would do this, and these were your steps and regimen, when you return, throw those away, don't return to them, start something new and fresh. Maybe daily draws aren't your thing right now. Maybe if you do daily draws, switch up the way you do them or the decks you do them with. If the way that you were journaling wasn't working, switch it up. Maybe stop journaling. If you weren't journaling, start journaling. So basically, after the time off, we want to start doing things slightly differently than what we were doing before, if those things before were feeling as though they weren't spicing up and adding something to your practice of value. So there's that, and I find that just switch ups of small things can really lend themselves to greater change down the line, or a small change will incite another change that will turn into this snowballing effect where suddenly you found yourself in a very different personal place in terms of tarot practice, and that can be really beautiful as well. So adding some structure, and by that I mean workbooks, exercises, journaling, various regimented practices, those can all be great ways to spice it up because it's pushing yourself to do something in a way that isn't just so intuitive and natural, which is wonderful, and it's great when that's enough to keep us spiced up. But if you're looking to kind of kick things up a notch and you aren't feeling like you're getting there doing what you're doing, adding things that are pushing yourself or forcing you to, in some way, do something in a way that is more scheduled or based around something that is routine. So I have one here that I think is really great as far as a workbook. This one is Tarot for Yourself by Mary K. Greer. There are many editions of this. I believe it was recently just reprinted, so this is the newer one. And it's basically a workbook, so this can be a great way to get in tune with you as a practitioner, who you are, because it is geared towards understanding yourself, and that's a big aspect to what goes on in this, but also to working with the deck. If there's one that you want to bond with, I think that doing exercises and things like that with the deck can add some spice to, say, your relationship with that deck. Likewise, in adding some structure, doing some exercises or practices. So if you don't do a daily draw, or you haven't been, or you're not very consistent about it, getting consistent about it and finding ways that make you feel good about doing it. So not ways that feel like a drag. Maybe just drawing one card, or maybe designing fun spreads for each day of the week, or based around a mood that you're in. So that would be adding some regimented aspect to it. Maybe you do it with lunar cycles and you do something particular with your tarot practice that's catered to that. We want to potentially be doing things outside of that where maybe you are working with the cards in a way. I know I did one where I would take a deck and I would flip through each card, and I had almost like a gratitude practice where, based on the concept of the card, I would think or write something that I'm grateful for. There are a lot of ways to interact with tarot that aren't just divinatory, that are also in a way touching upon different areas of our life and just having some fun. Sorry, low battery. So those are some ways and things that you might want to do to add some structure to your tarot practice, which in turn might spice things up or kind of force something to the surface in terms of who you are and as a practitioner. So the next one I have is try learning a new system. Maybe you aren't feeling called to one, but if you're looking to, say, kick up your practice a little bit, take the dust off and rise to different levels or take it to a new space, if you're open to it, new systems. So if you are a Rider-Waite-Smith reader and you read decks based from that, maybe going over to Thoth, maybe trying out Marseille. This doesn't even have to be one of those major systems. It can be something like a deck that is its own system, where the creators designed a system completely unique to what that deck is. If you're feeling as though that's something that could be interesting to you, I think that the systems themselves are different ways of, or lenses of, viewing the tarot, and in turn viewing life and ourselves and possibilities. So it's a way of switching up the viewpoint and the vantage point from which we are interpreting messages potentially. So adding a new system to your repertoire can diversify and kind of add some not some spice, but it will bolster in a way your potential as a reader and the ways that you may cross-reference what the meaning of a card or a way of working with the tarot is. So after that, I have to add Oracle, and I think that some of us are more tarot purists and we don't really like, not that we don't like Oracle, but we don't find as much in Oracle, or tarot seems to be what works for us, and that a lot of time can be the case. But if you're looking to, say, spice up your tarot practice and you aren't feeling content with just what it is, potentially adding Oracle might be a fun way to add something or add some new zest to it. So clarifier cards, setting spread positions that are specifically allocated to different Oracle decks, looking into what Oracle decks may resonate with you, and then seeing or pushing yourself to maybe even try one that doesn't. If you don't have any Oracle decks, going out and getting one that maybe feels right, one that doesn't feel right. This is all about playing and experimenting and just laying out cards and seeing what forms and what you see in that. So that's a great way to spice up your practice. And sometimes the system of tarot and the way that we see it as a system can be a bit limiting, or at least it can just feel confining at times. So Oracle tends to be a bit less regimented and more unbound and free. So that can be a great way to add some spice. Also, I will suggest that Kasia from Tarot Map has a really great class on her website, and I will really try to remember to link this down below, where she teaches us, or it's a class taught on how to incorporate multiple decks into your tarot practice, and I believe it covers Oracle. I mean, it's just about incorporating multiple decks, so I think that that would be something that would help in incorporating Oracle potentially. The next thing I have is to design fun spreads, and you can also look at what other spreads have been made by people or creators, and to play games with tarot. So if you are somebody who really just mostly looks and uses the same few spreads, and you have that and it's all very established, and you're really looking for something that's going to mix things up a bit, designing a spread of your own, I think that these spreads come out of I would say that a great way to create a spread is out of a need or a necessity. When you feel as though there isn't a spread for something that you'd like to ask or do with the tarot, this is when you would want to create that spread so that it can provide to you that way of looking at something, or have positions that you need for a given circumstance or issue or time or viewpoint. So don't be afraid to design spreads. It could be as simple as just laying out a few cards and deciding this one's going to mean this one's going to mean that, and this one's going to mean that. and that's what I need right now, and I need to know about those three things, and then just copying it down, and now you have a spread that you have created. And then also there's a bunch on Instagram that I've seen, so there are hashtags for that, for tarot spreads, and if you're looking for different things to get in touch with, maybe the spread is on a topic of something that you hadn't even considered to do a spread for yourself, that's a great way. I know that there are a bunch that I've come across that have given me a lot of great ideas and ways of thinking about myself and my circumstances. So looking to others for inspiration is great for spreads as well. And then playing games, how I mentioned that I would pull cards for gratitude. There are different ways that you can work with the tarot. You can just consciously pick cards to symbolize people and situations, and that can give you a better understanding of both the card, but also to change up your tarot practice in the way that you're interacting with the cards, making it something that is less serious and more lighthearted, or that is not so pigeonholed into one way of using the tool, because what tarot really is a tool. So if we're using that tool in different ways, it's expanding the way that our practice is functioning, how we are as practitioners. There's just a lot to be gained from finding alternate uses for our tarot decks than just divination and those more serious matters. So the next one I have is to take a class or a course. I mentioned Kasia from Tarot Maps course. There are a bunch out there. I haven't taken many, and I'm blanking on a lot of them, but if you just Google tarot courses, or there are a lot of wonderful creators here on YouTube that have classes of their own. I really wish, there are so many that I am not thinking of right now that I actually do know of and that are on like the tip of my tongue. But Googling tarot courses and classes, there are ones for self-care, for various ways of working with tarot, or just learning tarot, and maybe you want to almost relearn or get back to the basics. So we have all of those. Seeking out classes and courses can be a great way to up your tarot game as far as your knowledge base goes, but also to get some more under your belt in terms of the way that you want to work with the tarot. So there's that. Next I have is to talk to other practitioners. So if you are somebody who is more of an observer, which is something that I was for a really long time, just observing other tarot tubers, tarot Instagrammers, and I would watch and I wouldn't really interact or say much to them. But now I am much more open, and I like to comment and talk to people and start discussions and things like that. And I think if you are feeling as though you can, or as though that's a possibility, reaching out to people that whose content you enjoy, or that you feel called to talk to for inspiration or to bounce ideas off of each other, those can be really inspiring in ways that you can elevate your practice just through getting to know what others are doing and what inspires them and where they're at. I think that that is a great way, and in turn maybe you have something that they can offer something to them. I don't think it's a tit for tat situation necessarily where it's like a trade, but more so just hopefully that an interaction can result in something wonderful for both parties. And then my last one that I have on this list is to swap out the decks. I know many of us have deck rotations of a sort where we work with a deck for a week, or maybe these are the ones on our table, and when it feels right we'll put a new deck out and bring an old one in, and we are swapping decks out in that way. But if you're looking to, say, spice up your practice, swap whatever deck you are relying upon now and that feels like a tried and true stable one, and put something in that maybe is a little bit more challenging, or that pushes you, or that isn't necessarily calling to be worked with in a way that feels easy. Look for decks that are going to push you a little bit, that are outside the comfort zone right now, because pushing yourself to work with decks that aren't as easy and are a little bit outside that comfort zone in a more regular way can lead to some great insights and can expand your knowledge base, will force you to have to adapt as a reader to different circumstances and different styles of reading. So I think that that itself could be greatly beneficial. So these were a few tips, 9 tips specifically, that I have for how I spice up my tarot practice, or how I can kick it up a notch sometimes if I'm feeling as though that's the circumstance I'm in, where I want to elevate it a little bit. These are just ways of, I guess, almost leveling up. They're also great ways for if you feel like the practice is getting slightly droll and tired, that you can breathe some new life into it. But really, I think that these work to elevate a practice that's already existing and doing all right. So those are my tips. I hope you all are doing well. I invite you to share your tips for kind of elevating your tarot practice and spicing it up down below. I would love to know them, and I hope that these helped you a bit. So until next time, guys.